about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat. We will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. And yeah, so just go ahead and throw your questions in the chat. No one's going to fight you. No one's going to roast you. No one's going to try to debate you. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions about politics. So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. There's no such thing as a dumb question, so you don't have to worry about, my question is too simple. Everybody learned this stuff in high school or in college, and boy, oh boy, am I a silly person for not knowing this stuff already. You don't need to worry about any of that. I do not believe in making fun of people for trying to learn new things or trying to educate yourself about the government and politics. So throw your question in the chat. No such thing as a dumb question. What is up, Willie? Good to see you again. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I'm not going to yell at you because of your political beliefs. So long as you're asking questions in good faith, you will get a good faith answer from me. So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. This is not a debate show. I know there's a lot of really popular shows out there where left-wing people and right-wing people just yell at each other and try to own each other. That is not what this show is. Dridge says, do you think he'll be able to squash any amount of mail-in voting before 2028? That's a really good question, and I'm gonna say maybe. I think it is unlikely. Some of the information that I've been getting about the legal fight around this makes it seem like we are way too close to the midterms for anything like that to happen. I just think that stopping mail-in voting is going to be such a self-own for a lot of Republican politicians. I don't know if it's got legs, but you never know with the Trump administration. You never know with Republicans just bending the knee. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical that it could happen, but political predictions are worthless. So, I would just say work towards the future that you want to see. If you do not want Trump to be able to squash mail-in voting, then get to putting political pressure on your representatives, state and local and federal. Anonymous Molerat says, how long will it take for the American empire to crumble when Comrade Xi sends the PLA? I don't know. I don't think that America is all that easy of a country to invade. Liam French says, what's your thoughts on paleo and neoconservatism? I mean, are you talking about paleo the diets? As far as neoconservatism goes, I'm really not down with right-wing politics. I think that left-wing politics are better. But the platform is better, the politicians are better. Mikael Meme, what is a congressman or a congresswoman? Sure. So Congress is basically the Senate and the House of Representatives. So you could be a senator and be a congressperson, or you can be a representative and be a congressperson. What is up, Ecuadorian? Good to see you again. Funkytron says, do you think Kamala would have just been Biden 2.0? She did have very pro-Israel view and has taken APEC money. I don't think so. I think that Kamala Harris was, is definitely a flawed politician in that she really does appear to be flexible to where she will just say whatever she can to get power. So the big question is, like, what do you actually believe, Kamala Harris? It was clear to me that she was trying to signal to everybody that she would be harsher on Netanyahu than the Biden administration would have been. So no, I do not believe that. I do not believe that she would have been Biden 2.0, and I'm pretty confident that she would have been a solid B plus Democratic president. Soccer fan says, when did you realize Trump is not a good person? Oh, instantly. I clocked that guy in the 90s. I was like, oh, he started all these companies, he went bankrupt, and now he's still trying to make it seem like he's this genius businessman. Yeah, thumbs down on that fella. John Bradley said, what bills are you excited about? Oh, and then there was another moment, soccer fan, I just gotta mention, during the birther movement where he was trying to prove that Obama wasn't born in America. He said he sent representatives down to Hawaii and they can't believe what they're finding. They can't believe what they're finding down there. And I was like, this is bullshit. Like, he's lying. Like, they haven't found anything. If you find something, then you show it to people. You don't just talk about it, cryptically in that fashion. And then he just kept on doing that for the next 20 years. and a bunch of people fell for it. John Bradley said, "What bills are you excited about? Anything going through that would be good bipartisanship?" I mean, definitely nothing during the Trump administration. I think that potentially, if there's a bill to, I forget what the name of it is, but I think theoretically there's a bipartisan bill for stopping insider trading happening within the government that could potentially pass. But again, Republicans are fully in charge of the government right now, and they haven't passed it yet. So, like, what's the fucking holdup? The housing bill was pretty good. I'm glad that the housing bill passed. That was nice. Lillian says, should we be worried about the SAVE Act? You should be worried, but you should not freak out about it because it is very unlikely that it will pass. Like, there's a lot of Republicans that don't want it to pass also. And I mean elected Republicans, not just, Republicans in Republican voters. Aviv says, are you pro-Israel? I am pro the citizens of Israel, but I'm not pro the government of Israel. Aviv also asks, are you pro-Palestine? Again, I am pro the people of Palestine. I am not pro the government of Palestine. MST says, can you speak about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? Sure. The citizens are good. The governments are bad. I think that because Israel is the more powerful country, it's their responsibility to bring peace. And so long as they are not doing that, we should not be sending them any money or weapons. Kitschy says, what's your opinion on the filibuster? I say get rid of it after Trump is no longer president. Did that one. 312 says, have you heard of the Nerd Reich? I just heard about it on Fresh Air. Sounds scary. I don't know what that is. That's the first time I'm hearing about it. Steven says, so the settlers are good. No, I mean, if you're kicking somebody out of their house, then no, you're not good. Phil says, what do you think about government owning stock in Dell? Seems like socialism to me. Stephen, let me be clear about something, because I said that I was for the citizens, but I'm not for the government in Israel. There are shitty citizens everywhere. I'm talking generally about the citizens that live in all of these various countries. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of really shitty civilians living in Ukraine, but I still support the civilians in Ukraine. And I'm sure there's a lot of shitty civilians who live in Russia, but I still support the citizens that live in Russia. And there's a lot of shitty citizens that live in America, but I still support the citizens that live in America. Punkytron says there are only 3 powerhouses in the Middle East: Turkey, Israel, and Iran and Turkey aren't the threats. Would you agree with those 3? I got a punt on that one, Funkytron. Sorry, I need to think about that a little bit more. All right, Aviv says, do you still believe in an American-Israeli alliance post-Netanyahu's government like an Eisenkot government? I mean, the damage of the Netanyahu administration on America's relationship with Israel is catastrophic. And I don't believe that just getting rid of Netanyahu is going to solve that problem. I think Israel needs to do a lot of work to repair the damage they have done to the people of Palestine before we can start looking at that alliance as being the way that it used to be. You know what I mean? First of all, we got to stop sending them money and weapons. Like, that's priority number 1. And then, you got to assume that they're in friendship jail for the foreseeable future. Your Jersey lawyer says, why are people more outraged by these settlers, meaning trespassing, harassing, menacing murderers? Why are people not more outraged by these settlers? It's difficult. There's so many things that are going on, your Jersey lawyer, that for Americans, it can be very difficult to be mad about things that are happening in other countries. So, there are so many atrocities that America is either not involved in, marginally involved in, or directly involved in, both here and abroad, that it just takes a lot out of people. Like, I don't know why people aren't more upset about the president having a crypto coin. I don't know why more people aren't upset about Trump destroying the East Wing of the White House without congressional approval. I don't know why more people aren't upset about Doge doing the largest firing of veterans in American history. I don't know why more people aren't upset about the Qatari jet. I don't know why more people aren't upset about the detention facilities where immigrants and citizens and legal residents are being fed moldy, maggot-infested food and not being given medical care. I don't know why more people aren't upset about Alex Preddy and Renee Good. It's like the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, Joni says, why aren't people upset about Obama dropping 1,000 bombs on Libya without congressional approval? He asked for congressional approval. They didn't give it to him. There was a a justification under the war on terror for Obama dropping those bombs. And, I think that, the intention kind of matters. Like, what Obama was trying to do in Libya was kill terrorists. Thank you, your Jersey Lord. I appreciate that. Now, I think that if you talked to Obama and if you talked to a bunch of people that worked for the Obama administration, they would probably, I won't say probably, they will likely full throatedly admit that that was an issue and that they should not have done that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of nuance and complication to this. I don't think that anybody is trying to claim that Obama was perfect. Steven says, how much more money is the DNC going to waste fighting its own base? I don't think the DNC is wasting money fighting its own base. I think you're thinking of Third Way, which is not part of the DNC. Okay, let's see here. John Abbott says they can't believe what they're fighting. That's usually what happens when you fight nothing. That's very funny. Okay, MST says, do you think that the U.S. economy can support an open war in Iran? I mean, yeah, the American economy, we are able to transition to a wartime economy very easily. Like, we are the world's weapons manufacturers. And so if we are paying ourselves to make a whole bunch of bombs and bullets and then paying ourselves to go shoot those bombs and bullets at people and then go make some more, then yeah, the economy can do okay there. But the economy is a big complicated beast, and where people will be struggling is not in the weapons manufacturing industry. It will be in the trying to afford food or trying to afford healthcare or trying to afford a place to live. Aviv says, do you believe in the Americans' alliance against Iran and that Israel does also help the U.S.? No, I think that that's a toxic relationship. I think that Israel is not working towards actually stopping the threat of Iran. They are working towards destroying Iran. Like, if Israel really gave a shit, when I'm talking about Israel, I of course mean the leaders, not the people. The leaders of Israel were trying to destroy the nuclear deal that Obama negotiated with Iran. And that was largely the best way to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And then Trump threw them the garbage for no fucking reason. And then Netanyahu convinced Trump to go to war with Iran. And now everybody's fucked. So yeah, no, absolutely not. The Netanyahu government is not doing good work here. Okay, a Chewy Bar says, why can't people be more in the middle? Everything has to be decisive left or right. There are plenty of people in the middle, a Chewy Bar. I'm not one of them, but I would argue that there's not a lot of substance to right-wing politics, and also there's not a lot of substance to centrist politics. But that doesn't mean that that is what do you call it? That those are bad people or that you are wrong for believing in centrism. But I would just say that you're not alone. Like, there's plenty of people who are centrist. I don't think that they're correct in being centrist, but they do exist. Plush Genya says, thoughts on Hassan Biker. Probably agree with him like for 85% of the shit that he says, but he does say some completely out of pocket and irresponsible shit that I 100% do not condone or endorse. I do think that anybody who is very popular with young people and is advocating for being involved and interested in politics, and especially somebody that has aggressively left-wing stances, I think that that's a net positive for the culture. All right, Caleb says, do you think Steven Crowder or Matt Walsh is worse? I mean, you're just asking me which pile of shit is worse. Okay, let's see here. Chewy Bar did that one ready. Cliff D says, people wouldn't be going socialist Democrats if they had hope capitalism hadn't stole their hope. Yeah, I generally agree with that. Jay Exper says, why does everyone hate Donald Trump? Jay Exper, are you still here? That's a really big question that has a lot to that. There are many ways to answer that question, so I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole if you're not even here anymore. MST says, way the US have the right to have a nuclear weapon, but Iran don't. So because America invented nuclear weapons, because we are one of the few nuclear powers in the world, we're kind of established as one of the people that gets to decide who else has nuclear weapons. I don't think that's right. I don't think that anybody should have nuclear weapons, but that's just kind of like the way that the world order works at the moment. Okay, Russ A says 4 days to answer the question. That's not a question, Russ. I love Benjamin says, thoughts on socialism. If you're talking about universal health care, I'm for it. Bitnevo says, if Netanyahu loses power, is there anyone in the public eye who could responsibly take over? There is a resistance leader against Netanyahu. I forget what his name is, who is rising in popularity right now. Not perfect, like not the progressive champion that everybody in America would love to see, but definitely 100% better than Netanyahu. I forget the dude's name, but they just talked about him on Pod Save America, either this or it had to have been last week. Okay, let's see here. Russ A says 4 days to explain why people hate Trump. You want me to tell you why people hate Trump, Russ A? I'm happy to get into that. Would you like to ask me that question, Russ A, or are you just going to make suggestions that it takes me forever to answer questions? All right, Adrian says, "Hey, why America is so warlike?" That's a hard question to answer. You know, yeah, it's a really hard question to answer. There have been so many times that America. I think that a lot of the myth of America is in these massive wars that we've won, like the American Revolution or the Civil War or World War One and World War Two, and after that, America has just kind of like been slowly realizing how shitty war is. With Vietnam and the wars in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Iraq and now Iran, like, yeah, I don't know. It seems as though America is slowly waking up to the fact. But it doesn't help that the Republican Party has been so intimately connected to the military industrial complex. So they've been hyping up their entire base, being like, yay, yay, war is great, bombs are great, guns are great. Let's fucking go murder some people that don't look like us. All right, Plush Ganya says, "Do you think Hassan Piker would donate his money to Palestine?" I'm sure he's probably donated some of it. I don't know. Great Burgoy says, "What do you think about Nick Fuentes' analysis and prediction of the Iran war?" I have not heard it. I do not listen to Nick Fuentes. I do not listen to people that describe themselves as anti-Semites and misogynists and racists. Lorenzo V says, "Why did America learn from Vietnam?" I mean, we learned a little bit, but there were some people who were like, it's fine to do a Vietnam so long as you are murdering more people who are not white than you are losing white people. And it's a shitty perspective to have, but there are some people who were that racist then and are that racist now, unfortunately. Shark says, should Hunter Biden be talking to Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes? I don't think he should be talking to anybody. Dirt says, how do you think the war in Ukraine will end? My guess is that it is not going to end until Vladimir Putin either loses power or passes away. He seems dead set on this extremely poorly executed war of attrition. So he's not going to stop until he's forced to stop. All right, Jay Benson says, hello, I'm new to your channel. So who do you think can run the country the best, either side? Democrats, absolutely. Yeah, I can give you 1,000 reasons why the Democratic Party is better to run the country than the Republican Party. Jake Levins' opinions on difference between old school and newer Dems and how it could impact the party's future. It appears as though the people that are coming into the Democratic Party now are more progressive, less centrist, less neoliberal, less corporate and billionaire friendly, and I think that's better. I think it is better to have politicians like that who are younger and more aggressively progressive. And it is my personal belief that that message resonates with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in a red state or a blue state or a purple state. So I believe it is only a matter of time before everybody kind of comes around to, hey, the rich have been fucking us for a really long time. And I know that these Democrats, people told me that they're a bunch of gay communists who love chopping off kids' dicks and forcing them to get tits. But I kind of like the idea that I should get more money from my labor, for the exploits of my labor. All right, Star Pirate says, can you explain why I fired Trump for 238-1 treason? I don't know what that means. Padrolotti says, Jews control USA? No. Shork says, what's wrong with Hunter Biden? He's just kind of like a toxic human being who doesn't really have like a foundation in substance, he's a recovering addict, which I have full empathy and sympathy for, but at the same time, like he did do a lot of shitty, shady shit, and if you read Jake Tapper's book about the last couple of years of the Biden presidency, it appears as though Hunter was one of the people that was convincing his dad to run for a second term, which was a absolutely fucking disastrous thing that he did. So you got to ask yourself, like, Hunter Biden, why would you fucking do that, my guy? KK, good to see you again. Says, are you a socialist? No, I am not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a communist. I believe in a mixed model. Okay, Matt says, do you think the USA should cut off funding for Israel? Yeah, 100%. It is a moral and legal issue. We already have a law on the books that says that we are not allowed to send money and weapons to countries whose governments are guilty of war crimes. The Israeli government is currently guilty of war crimes. Many organizations have concluded that. Ergo, it is illegal for us to continue sending money and weapons to Israel. D says, with the Overton window having been shoved too far to the right, even centrists appear to be leftists. Agree? Question mark. I actually kind of disagree about that one. As a progressive, centrists do kind of seem like Republican light to me. So I don't know if I would agree with that. All right, so this guy Booker is just spamming the comments with Trump and a bunch of heart emojis. So that's the kind of thing that you block. All right, Stephen Robbins says, I'm paying $5,000. All right, that is also not a question. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that person also. All right, Rotom says, Nick Fuentes, Galactic Emperor. That is also a block. Oh boy, we got a real block-a-palooza happening today. Extra Chad says, who likes grilled cheese more? Extra Chad, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask a substantive question, but if you do one more like that, I'm going to block you. MST says, do you think the Vietnam War was a mistake? Yes, 100% it was a mistake. Jude says, what do you think about workplace democracy and libertarian socialism? I mean, I got to figure out what those words mean. First, workplace democracy, meaning that instead of a boss making all the decisions, everybody kind of votes or votes on who the boss is going to be. And libertarian socialism kind of makes no sense to me. I don't know what that means. Dirt says, your ideas on Democratic candidates for president 2028, or is it too early? I think it's too early, and also nobody's declared yet. Envy says, what do you think about Hitler? I'm against him. Zergon says, do you think in 2028 American politics will go back to pre-Trump era before 2016? Honestly, Zergon, I hope not. I hope that we have better politics than pre-2016. Like, politics was not great in 2015, 2014, 2013. It was brief it was good for a hot second in like 2007, 2008, and then it got real bad real fast. And that was largely due to billionaire funded propaganda trying to stymie the Obama administration. And unfortunately, they were extremely successful at that. All right, Willie says libertarian socialism seems like an oxymoron. Completely agree with that, Willie. Chu says libertarian socialism is like a blanket term for anarchism and anti-Bolshevik Marxism. Jude, I don't know that there's any value to those like college level expressions. You know, if it takes that much time to explain what they are, like I still don't know what their policies are. But I'm generally against anarchism. MST says, what about the Afghan war? Also a massive mistake. Uncle Hippie says, workplace democracy sounds like a socialism on a corporate rather than governmental scale. Yeah, like I think that one of the issues with the corporate oligarchy is that the workers have so little power. They have so little say over what the business does and who the CEOs and the board members are. I believe that what could be really cool for, getting more power into the hands of the workers is a law that says that the lowest paid employees need to have representation on the board of directors, or that the CEO is the highest paid employee is only allowed to make 50 times more what the lowest paid employee makes. Shit like that. MST says, what is news of the Iran war? I think the last thing that happened was Iran said that they're not going to negotiate with America to end the war until Trump is gone from office, which I'm like, fucking good for them, Ready. Moira says, what is the difference between Democrats and Republicans? That is a really big question, Moira. Can you give me a specific issue, and I'll tell you how Democrats and Republicans differ on that specific issue? Star Pirate says, did you know that in 2026 it's One Nation content called Annexa in, I don't know what that is. Star Pirate seems sus to me. Oogie Boogie says, what do you think about defense cooperation agreement with Sweden? Give 17 military bases. Don't know anything about that, so sorry. User a bunch of numbers says, when Trump's term ends, will Republicans try to distance themselves from him? No. I think that they view his base as too valuable to give up on. So it's going to be a fight over who gets to inherit the MAGA base. And there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be like, I am the heir apparent to MAGA. And they're going to be doing their best Donald Trump impression in order to get them. My money for the person who wins that crown is one of the fail sons, either Eric or Don Jr. But there's going to be another wing that's going to be like quote unquote true MAGA, and they're going to be like Donald Trump betrayed MAGA by going to war with Iran and by capitulating to Israel, and sending money to Ukraine and shit like that. So we're the real MAGA, and that's probably going to be Tucker Carlson and his ilk. And if I had to bet on which side is going to win, I would say Tucker Carlson. But nobody should literally, if it's Tucker Carlson versus the Democrats, like I desperately need everybody to recognize that like Tucker Carlson is still the bad guy in that scenario. Maybe he's a little less bad than Eric and Don Jr., but boy, oh boy. Yeah, that's a bad one. All right. One Big John Lovell says, loan me $5. No. The God of Israel had a female consort. Big John, ask a question or please leave. MST says, do you think Trump has reduced the illegal immigration? So Trump has not reduced illegal immigration. Trump has actually increased it by making legal immigration basically impossible. He has empowered the cartel. Thank you to everybody who helped me reach my gift goals, by the way. I've been really slacking on thanking you guys. My apologies on that. What was I going to say? What was I in the middle of saying? So yeah, he made legal immigration very difficult or impossible for anybody who's not rich and or white. And so now the cartels and the coyotes who get money to sneak people across the border have a lot more people who are desperate to get across the border. So let's see here. And also the guy who was responsible for releasing the statistics on immigration just resigned because the Trump administration was not cooperating with them. All right, KK says, why don't you like capitalism? I like capitalism fine. I just don't like unregulated crony capitalism, KK. And that is what we're suffering from here in America. Capitalism has failed in regards to essential items that are no longer affordable for human beings. If you cannot afford health care, and if you cannot afford a house, and you cannot afford higher education, but those are essential for having a good life, then the free market has failed. You have failed, bro. Fucking take your shit and leave. MST says, I'm not American, but I think that is the solution. What is MST? Did I miss the comment where you said what the what the solution was? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Star Pirate says, can you name what country took over DC after America ended? No. KK says, how does healthcare work in the US? It's extremely expensive and not good. Okay. Rudy Ridge says, how do you feel about the Afghan withdrawal? So the Afghan withdrawal got largely blamed on Joe Biden, even though it was Donald Trump's fault. And I will explain. The Trump administration, when he lost the election in 2020, he basically gave Afghanistan to the Taliban. He was like, all right, America, we're going to leave and we'll be gone in like 6 months. And you just have the country like, we don't give a shit about this anymore. And he released something like 5,000 Taliban fighters that were in prison. And so he basically set Biden up to fail in the Afghan withdrawal. Biden gets into office. He says to Taliban, like, we can't do this with this amount of time. Can you please give us a little bit more time? And they were like, okay. So they gave him a little bit more time, but even that wasn't enough. If you talk to the people who are actually part of that evacuation, they will tell you that they did an amazing job with a very, very shitty hand. Obviously, it was a disaster, but that was not Joe Biden's fault or the military's fault. That was Trump. He set them up to fail. Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Star Pirate says, I was actually behind then withdrawal in Afghanistan. Don't know what that means. DSA says, nice try. He's unemployable. We fight, we win. Who are you talking about? Optimist says, do you like ranch dressing on your pizza? No. Sanitizer Smurf says, why don't we have better incentives to benefit cooperative community initiatives? I mean, I would love that, Sanitizer Smurf. Like, we should definitely vote for politicians who would do that sort of thing. Okay, Zero says, host is a gaslighter. No, I'm not. Can you tell me anything that I have said that is inaccurate, Zero? Happy to get into it. Okay. Lulika, ask a question or leave. MST says, do you think Trump's a solution for the U.S. future? No. Donald Trump is a fucking nightmare. He's destroying everything that he touches. He's got like the reverse Midas touch, like everything he touches turns to shit. Zero says, bring me up. No, you can either put in the chat what you think I said that was inaccurate, or you can leave. Or you can ask a question. There's lots of ways that you can be involved in this. Righty. Jordan says, do you think Trump will cause a 9/11 type situation to attract, to distract from the midterms? I mean, potentially. The Iranians, it already looks like they have attacked the water infrastructure here in America, so that's a fucking nightmare. Zero says you're scared. No, I'm not. I just don't believe in debating people on the internet. Zero. So again, you can either say a thing that you think that I said that was inaccurate, ask a question, or you can leave. User a bunch of numbers says, why are we the only westernized country without universal health care? Because billionaires have convinced people to vote for politicians that refuse to give us universal health care. Uncle Ippy says, do you think Trump's efforts are severely hurting scientific research in the US? Oh, yes, 100%. We have massive brain drain going on. They are destroying scientific research, destroying scientific grant money. There are cures for pediatric cancer that are no longer being researched because of Doge, Trump, Elon Musk, the Republican Party. Like, congratulations, you just killed a whole bunch more children. Awesome. Awesome work, guys. KK says, thoughts on ice cream. I like it. Let's see here. Shork says, does Trump actually think Iran can get him? I mean, he's paranoid, so I don't think that he puts. I think he doesn't put anything past past it. Belgian Boxer says, did the DOJ just release all the unredacted Epstein files? Why isn't anyone talking about it? I am unaware of the DOJ having just released anything regarding Epstein. MSD says, what the 9/11 is so famous, but in reality, comparing it to other countries, it's nothing. I mean, you have to understand what America is. America is kind of like high on itself and believes that we are uniquely separate from the damage of war and international affairs. And it's largely been true throughout American history because we have this massive ocean between us. But all of a sudden, we were vulnerable. And we became vulnerable because Republicans were in charge of the government and they allowed the largest national security failure in American history to take place. And so Americans were stunned and they were shocked. And the billionaire class and all the media was like, we can't criticize the government for fucking up and letting this happen because Republicans are in charge of the government. So let's all just like rally around the flag. And if you're not with us, you're against us and support the troops. MSD says, why are you in Iraq? Why am I in Iraq? I am not in Iraq. Are you asking why Americans are in Iraq? I don't know. That's news to me that we still have military there. LOL says, what do you think is the best solution to stop any kind of extremism? Probably education, eliminating poverty, access to healthcare and housing, stuff like that. Okay, Alex Burkow says, do you think the USA should try to remodel the system to become more like a social democracy? I mean, it's kind of happening already, Alex. There's no like the mechanisms to create that kind of a fiscal structure in America already exist. The only issue is, are we going to elect the politicians who are going to enact it? And if Americans vote for Democrats, and if the Democratic Party's primaries are won by politicians that are more progressive, democratic socialist leaning, people like AOC and Abdullah Sayed and Bernie Sanders and shit like that, then that's going to happen. It is on track to happening. KK says, thoughts on ICE. ICE is a rogue agency. They are behaving illegally. They are behaving barbarically. They are committing human rights violations every single day. They are murderers, and they are force feeding inmates moldy maggot infested food and not giving them health care. There is credible reporting that there is SAing going on and murder in those detention facilities. So yeah, do not endorse. MST says, why everyone hate ICE? Because of the things I just said, MST. Do you need me to go into more detail on that? Star Pirate says, did you know we're no longer voting, but instead testing people's intelligence? Star Pirate, nothing you have said has made sense, so you are out of here. Congratulations. All right, user a bunch of numbers says, can we rebuild our relationships with our allies once Trump is gone? We can. It'll just take work. JBH says, what's your political opinion? I'm a progressive Democrat, and the Republican Party is the biggest issue in American politics. They all need to lose their jobs. KK says, that's not ICE's fault. It's the government's fault. No, KK, that is inaccurate. Yeah, sorry about that, but you're just wrong about that. And since you're not here in America, you don't even know what you're talking about. Vince says, do you believe in unity through nationalism? No, I believe in unity through patriotism. Bobby Milo says, fear mongering. Well, first you said car mongering. What do you mean? Do you think I'm fear mongering, Bobby? Can you tell me a thing that I said that was inaccurate? Hold on. Oh boy, sorry, I've been missing all of these missing all these comments over here on the YouTube. Oi, 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 oi. Remember the comments, remove the whole chat for the whole spamming experience. George just dropped Invictus derailed. Yeah, how do I gotta block this person real quick. Block that user on YouTube. Fantastic. All right, what did Average Joe say? And U.S. healthcare system equals employer pays for insurance, pays for the primary care something, insurance copay, pharmacy, insurance approval, medical procedure, insurance approval, and copay. Yeah, it's like just too many steps. KK says, but do you think the point of ICE is good? No, no. We were doing immigration enforcement before ICE existed, and we can do it without it. That institution is rotten from toe to tip, and it needs to be expunged. K Cuff says, what's your take on the housing market? You asked me this yesterday, and I told you I don't know. User a bunch of numbers says, do you think political ads should be limited? I do think there should be regulations on political ads. More specific than that, I haven't really dug into. MST says, what is the American future with China? I mean, in politics. That is a really good question. So, the Trump administration has basically laid the groundwork for China replacing America as kind of like the de facto leader of the world. And that is going to be really weird for our political relationship with China going forward, where they basically have all the leverage in any negotiations or in any kind of like military skirmishes, disagreements, etc. So yeah, it's gonna be weird, and I desperately hope that we get smart people in charge of the State Department for once, and then they can hopefully start gaining back some of that soft power and diplomacy that is the reason that America was fucking kicking ass in the first place. All right. Gotta reopen that window. All right. Uncle Hippie says, do you think the Trump induced scientific brain drain is significantly helping China? Yes, 100% without question. Alrighty. Thazak says, what's your ideology, brother? I'm a progressive Democrat. LOL says, what is your opinion about social democracy? If social democracy is taxing the rich and government programs like they have in Scandinavia, then I'm for it. Boston Celtics says, I voted Trump because Republicans are red and red is my favorite color and I like the edits of him. I don't think that's a very good way of voting, Boston Celtics, but maybe I can talk you into voting a better way. Optimus says, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me saying, I really don't think you're strong enough, Optimus. KK says, so do you think they should deport illegals? I think that we should be loosey-goosey about people trying to become American citizens because we have two versions of the law here in America. We have loosey-goosey for the rich and the powerful, and we have extremely strict and unbending for the poor and the struggling. And I think that we need to reverse that. I think that if you are rich enough to have extremely powerful lawyers who can stop you from breaking the law before you do, then if you do break the law, you should have fucking known better and you should go to jail, no questions asked. But if you are a poor person who is struggling, who is trying to escape cartels or civil wars or violence or starvation or resource deprivation that was caused by the country that you are running to, then I think that we should be a little chiller about people that have come here undocumented or have overstayed their welcome. Now, if somebody does a bunch of crimes and if somebody is not a valuable part of their community, then yeah, deport them. Like, I don't give a shit about that. But I'm just saying, like immigrants are a net positive, and especially as we were looking down the barrel of a population decline because of a decline in birth rates, we're going to need those people. We're going to need those people to do that work and pay into Social Security and a whole bunch of other shit. All right, MSC says, do you think Biden was kind of sleeping? Yeah, he was old. Rudy Ridge says, host, how confident are you feeling about Tallarico? My opinion about people that ask me to predict how elections are going to go is it's 50-50 and the race will be decided by the work that you do. So if you want Tallarico to win, do some work because without you, he's going to lose. Steven says, all the Yahtzees, almost, I don't know what that means. Boston says, do you think abortion should be regulated? I mean, sure. All healthcare should be regulated, And even in the bluest state in America, abortion is regulated. You are not allowed to get an abortion past the moment of viability. If the fetus can exist outside of you, then you're no longer allowed to abort it. And I think that that was a much better system than what we're currently living under. Two Broke Toad says, please tell your beliefs on the existence of corruption and bribery in the US government. So the issue with bribery and corruption of the government is not just the fact that it is happening, it is the laws and agencies that are responsible for stopping it. The Republican Party has, for the last, I'm going to say like 30-ish years, have been slowly dismantling all of the agencies that oversee corruption and also have been dismantling the laws that make it easy to punish corruption. So if you look at Supreme Court decisions that were decided by the right-leaning Republican seated Supreme Court justices, it's things like Citizens United, it's things like Ted Cruz v. United States. There was another decision recently that was Clarence Thomas wrote the decision for, where he was like, you're allowed to bribe politicians so long as you give them the money after they do the nice thing for you. If you do it before they do the nice thing for you, then that's a bribe. But if you do it after they do the nice thing for you, then that's a tip. So if you legislate in a way that benefits a corporation or a billionaire, and then that billionaire decides to give you $50 million afterwards, that's totally legal now, according to Clarence Thomas. So yeah, the Republican Party, their politicians, their judges have been dismantling our ability to stop corruption going forward. And while there are some Democrats that are corrupt and have engaged in things like insider trading, the platform of the Democratic Party is to end corruption. The platform of the Democratic Party is to get money out of politics. The platform of the Democratic Party is to reinstate some of our campaign finance laws so that we don't just have legalized bribery allowed by pieces of shit like Clarence Thomas. All right. LOL says, do you think America is more democratic, like fair elections for smaller parties? Do you want America more democratic? I want America more democratic in the sense that I want everybody's vote to matter exactly the same, and I want everybody to be able to vote. Because we have a very unjust electoral system at the moment. You know, with the Electoral College, with the Senate map, and with partisan gerrymandering, the Republican Party has a massive advantage. We also, it's totally fine for, you know, state legislatures and governors in red states to shut down polling locations in Democratic areas. So you have people that want to vote for Democratic politicians are having to wait in line 5, 6, 7 hours. And I think in Georgia they were trying to make it illegal just to even give those people water and snacks as they're waiting. And I don't think that that should be allowed. I think that we should be making it easier for people to vote, and we should make everybody's vote count the same by getting rid of hold on just a second. I need to finish this thought before that happens. We need to get rid of the Electoral College. We need to rebalance the Senate map, and we need to get rid of partisan gerrymandering so that everybody's vote equals the same and people feel like they are a part of the process. Now, who wants to see the cutest fucking thing on the planet? Raise your hand if you want to see the cutest fucking thing in the planet. It's my baby in a bear costume, everybody. It's my fucking baby in a bear costume. How can you not look at this? Look at this thing. Look at this. Oh, God, I just want to eat it. She just smiled. Did you see that? Oh, God, that was cute. All right. Look at you. Oh, you little. Get over here. Oh, okay, let's get back to this. Okay, let's get back to work. Daddy's got to get back to work. All right. Let's see what we got in here. All right. Alan says, who will win elections in 2028? Nobody even knows who's running. Alan. MST says, do you think the relationship between Ukraine and the U.S. will continue until the end of the war? I've got no idea. The Trump administration is schizophrenic regarding Ukraine and funding them. I think that it is in America's best interest to make sure that Ukraine is able to protect itself. It appears as though Ukraine is kind of doing a better job. They've kind of learned how to do this by themselves, so it almost seems as though our assistance might not be necessary in the near future. But you know, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't even think Trump knows. KKA says, do you think if they commit a crime and are a legal immigrants that they should be deported? I think it depends on the crime. You know, if they're jaywalking, no. If they did a murder, then yes. Boston Celtics Glazer says, do you believe in Jesus? I think historically he was a real person. Are you asking me, do I believe he was the son of God? I believe that everybody is the child of the Immaculates. Alex says, "What do you think about the two-party system? Personally, like it to be a multi-party system." Um, yes, I think that would be better. I think in order for us to avoid there being spoiler candidates, we would need things like ranked choice voting. Otherwise, if you'd end up splitting the votes between likewise parties, and you end up losing elections that you should be winning. But yeah, if we had that, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that at all. I do think that people kind of tend to overhype the issues that they have with the two-party system. Like, it is not responsible for all the things that you think are wrong with America. Rudy says, "Host, unserious question. Do you believe in aliens?" I think that in a universe that is as old and large as the one that we are living in, that it is statistically impossible that extraterrestrials, intelligent life outside of Earth would not exist. Now, do I think that they have been to Earth? I am fully open to that idea. I kind of don't care, also, though. I think it's really interesting that people that like fly for the Navy all the time, like basically everybody that flies for the Navy is always like, yeah, we're seeing weird shit up there all the time. You know, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool idea that they're coming and visiting and taking a look at us, and we're like little, it's like a zoo, almost like a people zoo that they come visit and look at all the humans living their lives. All right, Boston says, "Do you think Trump is lying about Christianity? He couldn't name his favorite Bible verse." Oh yeah, 100%. He's never read. I don't think he's read a fucking book, let alone the Bible. There was some reporting, and I don't know how accurate this reporting is, that Trump used to sleep with a book of Hitler speeches by his bed. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, he was asked about it, and he said, "I don't. And if I did, I wouldn't have read it." Which to me sounds like that is the only book that he's read in his entire life. MSD says, "Are you against illegal and legal immigration?" No. No, I am pro immigration. America is a nation of immigrants. Immigrants are a net positive wherever they go. So yeah, I'm down with immigration. Oh, KK. Oh, that reminds me. I looked up that Obama quote that you were telling me about the other day, and that's misleading as hell, man, because that's just the fucking law. It is the law. As part of your citizenship test, you have to have a basic understanding of the English language. Obama was just reiterating what the law was. So fucking miss me with that with that nonsense, man. Okay, Zaragon says, "Is it safe to say that if COVID never happened, Trump would have won in 2020?" I think it's possible that he would have won in 2020. I don't think that anybody would know. I think that the fuck up of COVID was so massive that Trump should have lost by more, and the Republican Party should have lost by more than they actually did. So yeah, I don't know. It's not like Trump was a good president or anything in his first term, and that he deserves to win, a second term. But yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that hypothetical just because COVID should have hurt more. So if it didn't hurt more, then maybe the victory of the Biden administration in 2020 and the Democrats that won in 2020 had nothing to do with COVID. So I don't know. All right, Andre says, "Thoughts on Pax Silica?" Don't know what that is. The Fixer Mike says, "Are the U.S. soldiers in the Strait of Hormuz still starving and filthy?" Yes, unfortunately. Yeah, I believe it is against protocol for us to be leaving our aircraft carriers in the ocean for as long as they have without any kind of shore leave or restock. And so, yeah, the Trump administration is torturing both veterans and active duty military. So, congratulations, all you people out there who voted for him. You fucked over our service members, old and young. Steven says, "I still think something shady happened in 2024." It's possible. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying there's no substantive evidence that it happened. Boston Celtics says, "Do you think Kamala would have won if she wasn't a black woman?" No, I think the biggest issue for Kamala was the fact that she only had 107 days to mount her campaign. I think that the dust up around Biden dropping out and a completely bullshit narrative about Kamala Harris being forced down our throats when it was like that was the only thing that we could have done. Like there wasn't time to have a new primary or have a primary at the convention or anything like that. So yeah, there was that narrative that was running around, and she just didn't have time. She didn't have time to mount her operation or get her ducks in a row or shit like that. Okay, Anthony Del Dorado says the whole MAGA regime are nut jobs. I mean, yeah, the MAGA politicians are nut jobs, 100%. MST says, do you think the old American government was proud of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? That's a tough one. That is a real tough one. There is kind of like a rah rah, we won the war, we did this incredible scientific thing, but also we kind of feel bad about all the civilians that we murdered when we did that. Like, did we really have to do that? Like, do we have to do that twice? Like, kind of a thing. I think that now we're, the further along we get from Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I think the more ashamed Americans will be of the fact that we did that. Theo says, "Are you an ally? An ally to who?" John Abbott. Hold on a second. Average Joe. Tiki suit Mario. No, it was a bear costume. Average Joe says, "Any plans to watch the primaries this evening?" Nah, I never watch. I never watch the returns as they come in. It just stresses me out. I don't care for it. I don't care for it. Okay, Theo says LGBTQ people. Yes, I am an ally to the LGBTQ community. Carmine says we said sorry already, so that makes it better. Yeah, I'm sure they're all cool with it now that we apologized. Alex says, do you think the president has too much power? Yes. Yes. The Republican Party has been whittling away at checks and balances for a long time. The Trump administration is kind of like the final nail in the coffin, they hope. They believe in a unitary executive theory where Trump gets to be like the emperor of all of the world. Crucially, I think it's important to point out that they only believe in the unitary executive when a Republican is in the presidency, but they believe in all sorts of checks and balances when a Democrat is in office. Isn't that interesting? Boston says, do you like any politicians outside of America? Oh, I'm sure I do. I like Scheinbaum in Mexico. I'm sure there's others whose names I'm forgetting. I thought Merkel was okay. KK says, did you check the Mamdani wife Insta like? I did not check that one out, KK. But again, I'm extremely sus of that. Godless Gratitude says, this lawless regime ignores the courts and openly breaks laws daily. That is accurate, Godless Gratitude. BB Fan says, jumped in late. What are your thoughts of Dr. Abdul El Sayed? I like him a lot. I think he's great. I think that there's been some reporting that he's getting a little high on his own supply, and I think that he needs to tamp it down a little bit. One of my favorite political podcasts was diving into this, and they were like looking at some like leaked audio from one of his meetings or something, and they were like, "Dude, you need to go over everything you just said and replace every I statement with a we statement." And I was like, "Yes, 100%." And it appears as though he's already gotten that note. Like it appears as though he's already stepped away from that precipice. So yeah, definitely not a flawless human being. No human being is. We should not expect our politicians to be perfect. We should just expect them to be better. All right, Theo says, are you a communist? If not, why not? I'm not a communist because I believe in a mixed model. I don't believe that. I don't. I don't believe in the political philosophy of communism where like the state has complete control over what kind of jobs you're allowed to do. But I do love the ideas of workers under the means of production. I think that the people who do the work should actually get more of a share of the profits of what's actually happening. DJ Gizzard says thoughts on the United States of Israel. That's not a thing, DJ Gizzard. Alex says, "Oh, I thought you said he was a communist. Who is a communist?" Alex, who is a communist? Oh, you thought that he was saying I was a communist. All right. All right. Boston Celtics says, do you dislike Hamas but support Palestine? Yes. Hamas is a terrorist organization. You don't get to kill civilians. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how badly you've been shat on. Doesn't matter the war crimes that have been perpetuated against you. You don't then also get to commit war crimes. Ooh, ready. Carmine says, what's your favorite Mamdani song? I didn't know that he had any songs. Ready. Alex says, can we just clarify that modern day socialism is a totally different thing from communism? Yeah. I mean, here are the definitions that I like for communism and socialism. Communism is when workers own the means of production, not when the government tells you what job you're allowed to do. Socialism is when the government pays for things that help everybody, like universal health care, and we pay for that shit with our tax dollars. Yeah, socialism is not what's going on in Venezuela. Steven says communist government control housing, work, basically everything. Again, that is not the definition of communism that I prefer to use, Steven. I prefer to think of that as a totalitarian, authoritarian government. MSD says, and the Israeli government is a terrorist government. I would argue that the Netanyahu government is doing terrorism shit. I would 100% would agree with that. T-Vlog says, you let people come up and ask questions. Sometimes, T-Vlog. I'm very mercurial about it. If you really want to, stick around, put in your request. Maybe you'll get lucky. Comments are kind of slowing down right now. So, maybe. It does happen sporadically. Theo says, communism is stateless, classless, moneyless society. Maybe one day, Theo, but I think it's a little hyperbolic and obtuse to think that we can just change to that. How about instead we start working for a more equitable society, and if people like that, maybe we can go for an even more equitable society, and then if people like that, maybe we can go for an even more equitable society until eventually we are in the kind of stateless, classless, moneyless society that you are advocating for. All right, Heinz, thank you for providing that quote the other day. I really appreciate it. And thank you for saying hi. Bubblicious says all isms become controlled by the elites, not necessarily. The Fixer Mike says UBI is coming fast for the countries which are prepared for it. AI is going to change everything. Generally agree with that. Theo says capitalism is evil. I mean, it can be, Theo, but it could also just be somebody who's really good at making grilled cheese and wants to sell grilled cheese to his neighbors. MST says I think the European Union are kind of sleeping since the Second World War. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really an expert in that, but it seems as though they're doing shit, but I don't know. Theo says, "Can you help me in a debate, please?" I mean, I'll do what I can. Theo, you can ask me any questions that you like. I got to tell you that I'm kind of anti debates in general, so I don't. My advice for debates is just don't do them. Especially don't do them with people that are just going to lie, because it is impossible to win a debate with somebody who's just going to lie. KK says, I think the U.S. is supporting Israel because they want to have a strong ally in the Middle East. Yeah, that's one potential reason. There's also, and I think this is really important to mention, there are some Christian extremists that are currently elected representatives in the American government who believe and who are legislating in a way because they believe that by empowering Israel, we're going to bring about Armageddon and the rapture, and that they're going to get, zipped up to heaven during the rapture, and then there's going to be Armageddon here on Earth. Like, there are real politicians that believe that who are currently working in the American government, and I think that's a real issue. And that's why those people support Israel. All right, Santo Ray says, thoughts on Palantir and our military aligning? I'm against that. That's a real fucking, seems like some fucking Skynet shit waiting to happen. Gus says, most of your views seem like common sense. How do people not see that? There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there, Gus. I am talking to you on the misinformation and propaganda machine. We're all plugged into misinformation and propaganda 24/7, regardless of what social media network you are plugged into. You are getting billionaire funded propaganda and misinformation. Ooh, ready. Let's start wrapping things up. So if you want to support the show because you like what I'm doing here and you think that it's productive and helpful, there are a lot of ways that you can do that. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a fan on TikTok, which is free. You can be a super fan on TikTok, which is like a paid subscription kind of a thing. You can be a paid subscriber to my Twitch channel if you like. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free. Costs you $0, helps me out a ton. So I'd really appreciate it if you did that. You could even go to your Twitch, sign up for free to subscribe to my thing, using your Amazon Prime subscription, and then just keep on watching me over on TikTok if you like. What else? You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Though there's a very fun incentive at $10 if you're so inclined and have that kind of money to throw around. Link is in the bio. I want to be a resource for you guys to be more informed and more involved in politics. So however I can do that, do not hesitate to reach out. Do not be shy. You can shoot me a DM. DMs are open. You can hit me up via my website. Link is in the bio. Or you can hit me up via my Discord channel. Link is also in the bio. And regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday. There's going to be no show tomorrow. Have some family business tomorrow, so there is no streaming show tomorrow. No show on Wednesday, everybody. Just reminding everybody, there is no show tomorrow, Wednesday. So we will see you guys on Thursday. Will be the next time that I am streaming, everybody. But regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Now, here's the thing, guys. we're suffering right now here in America. Things are bad. We're in a rough place. The way that we get out of this is we do the work. And what is the work? We talk to people in real life. We organize, we protest, we boycott, we strike, we convince, we recruit, we do the work. We vote, and we get other people to vote. And we convince other people to vote for better politicians. And then we convince them to convince other people to vote for better politicians. And then we can have a better country. We can have a country we don't have to worry about housing being too expensive, or healthcare being too expensive, or college being too expensive, or food being too expensive. We could have a country where we transition to green, clean, renewable energy. So we're all get to save a whole bunch of fucking money on our electric costs, and we have the added benefit of not fucking destroying the environment and putting a bunch of carcinogens in our lungs and in our water and our food. We don't have to live like this, guys. We just have to do the work. Because the people who want us to live like this are very powerful and they have a lot of money, but we have the advantage of being way more people than they are. So if we can take advantage of our advantage, of our numbers, then we win and we can have a better life. We can have a better country. All right. DJ says, how does America plan to help others if America doesn't water our own backyard? I guess we can walk and chew gum at the same time. KK says, do you think Israel should win the war against Palestine? No. No, I do not. Luis says, as a Mexican living in Finland, I can say that people here are the happiest because of what you mentioned. That tracks for me. Gozer says, do you think China helping other countries' infrastructure is a good thing? Yes and no. I worry about an authoritarian government having the kind of power that America has had in the past. Now, you could obviously argue that authoritarian government is doing some good things like high-speed rail and printing a nuclear power plant's worth of solar panels every day and shit like that, funding the kind of scientific research that we should be funding here in America. But you can't trust authoritarian governments. You need to have ultimate say in who the government is and what they do. Otherwise, you end up in a fucking worker camp for being a Uyghur or for mentioning Tiananmen Square and shit like that. So I'm concerned about it. I think it is good that they are kind of like picking up the slack of the humanitarian shit that America used to do before Doge came in and killed all that shit. But it sets a dangerous precedent, and yeah, it's worrisome. It's worrisome. We want to be taking power away from authoritarian governments, not giving them more, generally speaking. All right, everybody, do the work. Be good to each other. You don't have to be addicted to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. Never forget that. And I will see you guys on Thursday. Remember, there's no show tomorrow. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.